Hi everyone, this video explains the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index, the HHI. It's a tool used by competition authorities around the world, and I'll explain what it is, I'll explain how to calculate it, and also why that way of calculating, why that formula actually works. And then finally, we'll have a look at how competition authorities use it in practice. Okay, what is it? Well, essentially, it's a number, it's an index that tells you how concentrated a market is. So it's a measure of market concentration. Now, you may say, yeah, but is market concentration, isn't that kind of common sense? You look at the market, you look at the number of players and their market shares, and you can tell that a market with 10 players is less concentrated than a market with just 2 players, right? Sure. That's true. But still, it's really useful to have this HHI because the HHI allows you to talk about market concentration in a more accurate way. It allows you to put a number on it. And if you can put a number on it, you can also be much more consistent when you talk about market concentration. Assume, for instance, that a competition authority says, we're going to apply strict scrutiny when we review mergers in very concentrated markets. If that's the authority's stance, then it's useful for everyone involved to know what precisely the authority means with a very concentrated market. Well, the HHI allows you to do just that. The authority can say, well, above a certain level of HHI, above X, we consider a market to be very concentrated, and that's when we're going to apply very strict scrutiny. So it's a handy little tool. How do you calculate it? Well, it all starts with market shares. And to get market shares, you need to know what market you're talking about. So calculating the HHI presupposes that you've defined the relevant market. Relevant market, a term of art in competition law. So it presupposes that you're done with that exercise. And you then have your market players. To then calculate the HHI, it's pretty simple. You take the market share of the players in the market. So you take the market share of A, B, C, and D. And you're going to square those market shares. That's really the key point. You're going to square the market shares of the players in your market. And once you've squared them, you're going to add those numbers up. So you're going to add that up. And the sum total of that is your HHI. In this case, 2,800 is the HHI of this particular market. It's a pretty high HHI. Most authorities would consider that a highly concentrated market. So the formula is the HHI is the sum of the squares of the market shares of the individual players in the market. Just to make sure you got it, let's practice a little. Very simple market, just 2 players, A and B. How do you calculate the HHI? Well, we're going to square the market share of A. We're going to square the market share of B. And then we're going to add those up. And the sum total, which is 5,000, that's the HHI in this particular market. All right, why does it work? Why is the formula the way it is? Why this squaring? Well, think for a moment about what happens when you square a number. Of course, the number gets larger, well, except the 1. The 1 just remains 1. But all the other numbers, of course, get larger. And the large numbers get much larger, right? That's the whole point of squaring. You multiply by itself. And so you're giving a boost, you're giving a turbocharge to large numbers because they become much, much larger. And if you think about what you want to measure, that's precisely what you want. You want to measure concentration, which is a market with, or you want to measure how concentrated a market is. And a concentrated market is a market with few players, meaning large market shares, right? So you want to make sure that the large market shares weigh more heavily. And by squaring, that's exactly what you do. You take the market shares of all the players, you square them, and so you weigh more heavily the large market shares, and you then add them up. And the number that you're going to get is going to be much higher if the players had large market shares. because you've squared them. And the HHI is going to be much lower if the players in the market had small market shares. So that's the genius of the HHI. That's why it has turned out to be such a handy tool. That, and perhaps the secret joy of competition lawyers, that they can actually do a little bit of math. But yeah, that's the way the HHI is calculated. We'll have a look now at how authorities use it, and I'll do that in a second video.